So in your comments section here, you're going to need to indicate the name and, if you have it, the username of the student with which you wish to use Snap and Read or Cowriter. The reason for this is because after you become an active user of Snap and Read and your email address is registered with the program, with the web extension, you will have access to this website, which you will go to when you go to log in that first time. It will take you to this website called the Educator Dashboard. So this is how you add students to your classroom. So you will click on Accommodate, and here you can choose if you're trying to help a child using Cowriter Universal, Snap and Read, or even both. So for instance, we're doing Snap and Read right now. I'll click Snap and Read, and it's loading up a page which will ask me for the student's email. So once you have the student's email in here, you click Add Student. That will send an email to your student with an activation code that he will need to launch the program like we have in the upper right hand corner here. It'll ask him for that when he goes to log in. So at the moment the students do not have access to their own emails, but this is why over here in your ticket you can very easily just type away your student's username, their name, maybe as much information as you want really, to indicate that you want this student to be able to do it, and the IT department will be able to fulfill that request and give the student access without them having to punch in their activation code. The IT department will do it for them. So now that we've gotten all of that sort of housekeeping type stuff out of the way, so the Snap and Read and all this, the accommodating thing, I've just explained to you that it's to add students to your classroom. Why do you want to do that? Because once you have that, it starts to record data on your students. And you will be able to see how many words are the students reading, how often they are using the software. With Snap and Read, this group has read this many words and spent this much time reading. So obviously right now it's at 0 because we're having to... And this could be interesting data to collect to see if this is something that your student finds useful, or for you even to just track if there's just better use of the program. Okay. So now that we've gone through all of that, we can start to see how Snap and Read can be used. So the first and easiest way that it can be used is for reading. So I've pulled up here The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. It's a HTML file that I found in the gutenbergproject.org. And so so it's an HTML file. So all the words have been put on a web page. So this is just a web page, like any other web page, like Wikipedia or anything like that. So the first functionality is this speaker here, the read button. So if I click the read button, you'll see it turns blue, and when I start to drag my cursor across, it has the speaker attached to it. So we just click on the first word.
No answer. Tom. No answer. What's gone with that boy, I wonder?
And when I want to stop,
no answer. The old lady.
I just click again anywhere on the page and it will stop. So that's one way of using it. That's the easiest way of using it on any web page. So Another functionality that I can show you on this page is the readability level. So, for instance, what you can do is you can click on this so it turns blue, so that tells you that it's on and working. And now I'm going to click here, and I'm showing you sort of what not to do first. Because this is look at how small your cursor is over here on the right. Look how small that is. That means it's a very, very long document. The whole book is here. So if I do this, it's giving me the pinwheel of death because it's trying to change the readability level of the entire book. So that's going to take forever. So I'm going to click it off so it doesn't freeze or do anything like that. And I'm going to show you what these crosshairs are supposed to do. This is a selection button. So when you click it and it turns blue, you'll get this yellow crosshairs along your screen. And you can see that if I push down and drag, I can select a specific paragraph. And so now it's processing that paragraph only. And it's still processing.
The old lady pulled her spectacles down and looked over them about the room. Then she put them up and looked out under them. She seldom or never looked through.
So that'll stop it from reading. Now say, I don't quite understand what this word spectacles means, or, things like this, seldom. So I'm going to go over here to my leveler, and I'm going to click on this. And what you'll notice is, get myself out of the way here, is that it comes up, since it's a selection, it'll come up as a separate selection. And so the old lady pulled her eyeglasses. Now I know. And so, if I drag my mouse over it, it even tells me her spectacles, her eyeglasses. And she seldom, she almost never, and it will tell you what that word was. And if you still can't read this, you want to read this to yourself with the simplified language.
The old lady pulled her eyeglasses down and looked over them about the room. Then she put them up and looked out under them. She almost never or never looked crowd them.
So there you go. You can level a passage, and then on top of that, read the leveled passage to yourself. Here's another functionality that's really interesting. Now, once again, I'm going to use my selection device, but I'll show you how to do it on just a regular, not such a long web page. This right here is a...
The old lady pulled her spectacles.
So this right here is this sort of the universal symbol here for translation, and you can translate selected text. So I have it translated here into Spanish, because if you go into here and you right click, so this is a right click on there, you can go to options. And so native English speaker here, which is what you want to keep it on, primary language translation. And here you get to choose from all the languages that are available. And it's Google Translate. So if I wanted to switch it to any language, I could. And then, even better, it can read it to you in Spanish. If you're not a strong reader in your native language, you can have it switch to the reader.
La anciana se bajó los anteojos y miró por encima de ellos acerca de la habitación.
Now what you'll notice is that it only highlights the first word. So that's just a bug that they haven't ironed out yet. But it will read whatever you selected, but it will not level it once it's translated. So there we go. So that's just for text. You have a huge text, that's what you need. Now let's take something a little more Webbie, like actual website type stuff. So I found this website. It's about how to use a bandsaw and all that, and what the different parts of a bandsaw is. So if I go over here and I drag this, look what's going to happen, because I want you to pay attention that there's a big picture here. There's an image in the middle of the page. So I'm going to click on this.
Woodworking advice.
Okay.
Because sometimes it gets complicated.
So it's reading the whole page.
Woodworking tools.
I wanted to read this.
Woodworking advice. Woodworking advice. Because sometimes it gets complicated. Woodworking tools. Reviews. Techniques. Jigs and fixtures. Plans and projects. Materials. Business. Directory. Woodworking tools. Bandsaw. Parts of a bandsaw. Bandsaws. Woodworking it.
Okay, so this was working earlier. I don't know why it's not working now. Okay. Let's try that again.
Woodworking advice. Woodworking it. Woodworking advice. Because sometimes it gets complicated. Woodworking tools. Reviews. Techniques. Jigs and fixtures. Plans and projects. Materials. Business. Directory. Woodworking tools. Bandsaw. Parts of a bandsaw. Bandsaws.
Okay. Alright, so I'm on this page, and it's all about bandsaws. And I want to read this.
Woodworking advice.
Oh my god, why isn't this not working now? Boo! Boo to this. Okay.
Woodworking advice.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you this because I want you to pay attention to this image here. There's very clearly an image in the page. And Snap and Read will not read the image. I'm clicking on the words, nothing's happening, it's confused. So this is where your crosshairs comes in again. Now, if I do this, this is also what not to do. See, it's going to process. It's going to try to process this. And then
tracking knob, quick tension lever, tracking lug lathe, blade tension scale, guide post, EA, earwicking, AE, blade tension, hand wheel, GSJA, ground pocket point.
So you're noticing that it's starting to read the background code here. So when you're trying to read a picture like this, use the crosshairs and really just highlight the word that you want to read.
Blade tension und wall.
See, and it didn't quite get that one because it's an image at this point that it's trying to read. What about this one?
Rear rail.
So there you go. That one it got.
Pulley alignment hub.
There you go. So if you do it one at a time, it will definitely read. And then you've got your words underneath here.
Woodworking advice. Woodworking advice. Because sometimes it gets complicated. Woodworking tools. Reviews. Techniques. Jigs and fixtures. Plans and projects. Materials. Business. Directory. Woodworking tools. Bandsaw. Parts of a bandsaw. Bandsaws. Parts of a bandsaw. These are the parts of a typical bandsaw. Woodworking advice. Woodworking advice.
So let's see, if I select words on a page,
these are the parts of a typical bandsaw,
and then click that,
frame,
it'll start reading the words that I've
supports
selected.
the rest of the bandsaw components. Upper wheel, adjustable wheel to allow for tensioning and tracking of the bandsaw blade.
Okay, so we have to unclick before we click on something else. Parts or pieces, components. There we go. Okay, now let's talk about PDFs a little bit, because these are also a lot of times PDFs are image files or some sort of that. So let's talk about PDFs. Here I've got a worksheet for math. This is going to show you some of the limitations of Snap and Read, but it'll also show you how much, I hope to have shown you already how much it can actually bring to your students. But in this particular case, I want to show you sort of the limits so that you don't think that it's a silver bullet for all problems. So here I go with the Speak tool. And I can click on this.
Algebraic expressions simplify the following expressions.
So it's reading the instructions just fine. But now let's see what it does with this.
1. 5a plus 6a equals 2. 3a plus a equals 3. 8a. 3a equals 4.
See, it skipped that dash. It skipped it because it thought it was a dash, and it didn't read it as minus.
4. 1 0a, 2a equals 5.
Also also with numbers, it's going to read each individual number. And as you notice, the rhythm makes it sound like it's saying 5a plus 6a equals 2. And that's no good either. But it can still help a student read.
Combine like terms to simplify the following X-ray science.
So it can help them read a little bit of the expressions. Now this is clearly an image. If I click on it,
Worksheets copyright 2012 to 2013 by education.com.
It's just starting to read something that's way above in the document, and it's not registering that this is where I want to start to read. Now if I click on this,
Worksheets copyright,
it still considers it an image. So at that point, that's where our handy dandy crosshairs come in, and you'll notice something else here. With this being such an elaborate image, you're going to notice another limitation here.
A. O. W5E core B4.
It's reading the code
OE1,
behind it.
OD11. Complete the algebraic equations.
But the stuff that matters?
Fraction. Reduce and convert it to a mixed New Berlin.
So the stuff that matters it actually read. Okay, New Berlin, who knows where it came up with that. But so it can definitely read instructions on these things. So here's algebra. And this stuff, on the other hand,
30844.
Yeah, a little bit complicated with that stuff. Oh, and these are actually considered
greater than, less than.
And then for some reason, when it sees this symbol, it stops.
26231258. Multiply or divide to end a common denominator. 2. Then compare the numerator. 3. Write less than.
So there you go. It can read as much as
Exponents. Adding exponents may seem like a daunting task at first, but once we know a few key terms, you will find.
So once again, let's see if it'll read it better with the crosshairs selecting.
Adding exponents may seem like a daunting task at first, but once we know a few key terms, you will find that adding exponents is not so bad at all.
There you go. So the word daunting here is misspelled, so that's why it's saying daunting. It can't correct spelling mistakes in the document. And we hit our leveler here because we've got some adding exponents may seem like a daunting job. They switched that for task at first. You can move this. Translated job to task, task to job. But once you know a few terms, there you go. So there. So that's the math worksheet. Alright, and here's another PDF with mostly words on it, and I want to show you that this makes it a little bit easier.
Trade the beginnings of Ghana in the 400s. A group of primarily nomadic people named the Berbers formed a kingdom just south of the Sahara Desert. They called their kingdom Ghana. They began to use camels to carry goods across the Sahara Desert. From the north came salt.
So, because this is only words, it's a lot easier for Snap and Read to figure it out. And this is kind of what you'd want to use it for anyway. These big, long, kind of daunting things. And if you wanted to, once again, just and if you wanted to, once again, just hit those crosshairs and just read one specific paragraph to yourself. See, it's still processing.
The Empire of Ghana, although founded.
So I'm going to stop it there, unclick that. I'll translate this. And here we go. There's my translation. And if I click on the mouse, it'll translate it back. Because once I do that, there you go. So the final thing that you can use Cowriter and Snap that you can so the final thing that you can use Snap and Read for, which I find to be really cool for some of the more advanced students, so the final thing that you can use Snap and Read to do is create outlines, and that is down here in the lower right hand side. This arrow here, if I click that, it opens up an outline box, and I can hit that I want a new outline, and I've selected this cell biology lecture here, so I can put down compare and contrast meiosis and mitosis. Oh, too long, I guess. So I'd have to do like sort of like a something else, maybe CNC meiosis and mitosis. So what I'd want to do at this point is obviously read,
How are mitosis and
so I would read this all, right? And as it's reading, or further on, I can start to create my outline by simply highlighting terms, and then so I got mitosis up there. So it's a form of cytokinesis. Boom. Now, since I'm trying to make these in order, I can indent that and be like, okay, mitosis, it's cytokinesis. Meiosis. Let's hit that enter button to get a new thing. Guess what? It's also cytokinesis. Oh, I wrote it twice, no problem. Throw that one in the trash. Do this one, indent. Okay, so the end result of both are daughter cells produced from a parent cell. That's your definition. And then the two processes differ in two fundamental ways. I can see, oh, 2 rounds, huh? Okay, so 2 rounds goes with meiosis. So here I go again. And mitosis only has 1 of each. So I can just move that over here. Unclick that. And move this up here to mitosis. And so as you can see, I can just select. Oh, that goes here. I can select stuff, move it around. No big deal. All of my sources are immediately cited, so this website is the source. But if I wanted more sources, I could obviously add a link here. I could link to another source by clicking on this and manually cite a source and fill it all in. Say if I had a textbook that I wanted to reference rather than a website, that could work too. And then, so I don't have to look for anything. And my outline is automatically saved for me to be able to then write my essay. Now, I can't copy and paste this, unfortunately, out of Snap and Read. So what I would probably do is, you can't select it. See, I'm trying to select it with my mouse. It won't work. So what I would do is either use Ink2Go and save a screenshot, or I would use the snipping tool in Microsoft. So new snipping tool, and I would just go, okay, bam, this is what I want, and then I can just save this as an image and print it out if I'm just using my outline to help me write an essay. That's already pretty handy. So there we go. And that is everything you need to know about Snap and Read.